Well, welcome back to another session. Today, I would like to speak to the topic of being flexible, especially as a young man. And I guess to begin the conversation, let me use an analogy that I think would be easy to, to relate to. Human beings are very different from all of the forms of the animal kingdom. We're certainly very different from vegetation. For example, a tree can only be what it is. A tree is rooted in a particular location, and its roots run deep depending on the type of tree it is. But a tree cannot pick up itself and move to a different soil, even if it finds its current location detestable. The tree is stuck. The tree must make do with the hand it's been dealt. Human beings are slightly different. We are not like trees. We have the free will, free choice, and the ability to pick ourselves up and move to a different location where we believe the soil to be more fertile, and we can plant ourselves in the new soil. That is a privilege that most people are not aware that they have. Over the last few days, I had the opportunity of interacting with a number of people at a number of social gatherings. And during one of the conversations, I asked one of the people a question, and the question had to do with where they lived and why they were where they lived. And the person explained that they have been in the same location. They studied in the same, they grew up in the same location. They went to college in the same location. They graduated from university from the same location. They started working within the same locale. And eventually they got married within the same location. And I asked if they had ever had the opportunity of traveling outside of their small little town or small little village, as it was. And they said no, that they're really a small town country individual, and so they hadn't really seen much of the United Kingdom, being English, but never really traveled, other than perhaps going on holidays to various parts of the world. But within England, they had barely traveled around England. And so after the conversation, it got me thinking about opportunities and how, for many of us, our acres of diamonds is right next to where we are. It's not somewhere out there. The grass is seldom greener on the other side. Your acres of diamonds could be where you are. For many people, we do not know that our diamonds are within proximity, because we're stuck in a paradigm, a lifestyle, a culture, a behavior that we've always been exposed to. So we never look outside of the box. We never look to our local environment to understand what's out there. Now, I wanted to take that concept and use it as a teaching session for young men, and perhaps expand on that ever so slightly. Many a times I have said, and I have provided what I call rules, somewhat, tongue-in-cheek. Who am I to give you rules and principles and tenets? You have your life to lead. You choose whatever laws and principles and pathways, destinations you want. One of the reasons I do so is because I know that growing up, I was very lucky not to have made mistakes that were colossal. I made a lot of mistakes. I'm glad I made those mistakes, but it would be naive of me to say that all of those mistakes had benefits. And many people say that everything happens for a reason. In my opinion, that is perhaps one of the most idiotic statements that people use to rationalize the lack of thought, the lack of thinking, the lack of making good choices. Our destiny is not predetermined. The outcome of the choices we make are somehow destined. In other words, there's a cause-effect relationship. And although our destiny is not set, if we make a choice, there is an effect of that choice, which we have to live with. Now, the reason I say that is because many a times I made the same mistake of saying, well, everything happens for a reason. As I grew older, I realized that, the things that happened to me in my life, many of them happened for the reasons I chose. And it took me a while to understand that indecision is a decision. It's better for you to make a decision, make a mistake, introspect, reflect, course correct, and then progress. So experiences plus introspection is how we get to progress. That's how we learn. That's how we develop. You go from failure to failure without lots of enthusiasm. We don't learn anything from success. For example, I don't. I've learned most of the time from trying things, realizing the mistakes and the errors of my ways, and hopefully not making too bad a mistake that it cost me way more than I could have afforded to pay. Now, the reason I have gone along and rambled on for a short while is simply to say this. As a young man, between the age of 18 and 35, I think those are the best years of your life. The best years because you have the abundance of potential ahead of you. But in those 18 years, there are certain decisions that you have to make. Those decisions have to be made to the best of your abilities, most of the time with this discernment and with good judgment. Most of the times, you will find that you don't have the understanding or the wisdom to know what the right decisions are. So in many ways, what you need is to be around smarter people, wiser people, more intelligent people, and so you feed off and learn from their mistakes and you learn from their experiences. Now, for that to work, and this is where I get to contradict the point I made about acres of diamonds. Yes, your acres of diamonds could be where you are and may not be without, but rather is within. But at the same time, what a life you would have lived if you never really got to explore the beauty, the inspirations, the architecture that is outside of your place of domain. And so, as a young man, as a young person, I would recommend that you remain flexible. Be open, welcome opportunities. The two-letter word, no, is one of the words you have to learn in business, in life, in order for you to become exceptionally great at one thing. You have to say no to so many other things. As a matter of fact, Warren Buffett said that he says no to 99% of the offers that are put before him. Steve Jobs said that he was just as proud of the things that he said no to as to the things that he did, that it was important to stay focused. But at the same time, the ability to say no, and say no intelligently and wisely, usually does not come till when you're much older in life. In my opinion, generally speaking, that begins from 35. Because at that point in time, you've come to the realization of your manhood, who you are, what you like, what you dislike, what excites you, what your purpose could be, what your passions are, what you're good at. You understand how to fail. You've understood risk and the ability to make the right decisions. But before then, you have to fail your way to success. And that means you should avoid the two-letter word no, especially between the age of 18 and 30, in my opinion. Now, this does not mean you accept everything that comes your way. Let me be more specific. You embrace opportunities when they come. Someone says, we have a function to attend. It's a business function. There'll be people we do not know. Would you like to come? Yes. I've been invited to a wedding. It's in this location. Would you like to attend? Yes. Someone invites you to come and join them in the gym for a workout session. Would you like to join? Yes. Someone stops you in the street and says, listen, I think you seem interesting. I'd like to get to know you. Do you mind if we switch numbers? Yes. In other words, open your doors and open your windows to the world and allow yourself to make friends, to make acquaintances, to be available to other people. And whenever you go through such an interaction, go in good faith, go peaceably. Now, one thing should be clear. When you get there, if they do not show you honor, be patient. If the lack of honor is persistent, shake the dust off your feet as you leave and move elsewhere. The point of this is simply to say that some of the relationships that I was able to form in my 20s were some of the best relationships I ever had. Experiences, opportunities, memories. I never could have exposed myself to had it not been for the fact that I said yes. I remember being in Marbella in Europe, and I'm sitting across the table with a friend. We're having steak. Next to me is someone else. Two people having a business meeting. Two guys. One of them says, hey, both of you are not from this part of the town. We said, no, we're just visiting. We talked for about 2 minutes. One of them said, this is where I live, in a different location in Europe. Here is my card. Do you ever visit where I live? Or my city? We said yes. As a matter of fact, we are scheduled to be in your city in about 2 months or 3 months. He said, give me a call when you arrive. A few minutes of a conversation created what I consider to be one of the best relationships and experiences I have ever had. That relationship blossomed and blossomed and blossomed simply because we said yes. We didn't judge. We didn't have any pre-existing prejudices. And so when the offer came through, we just simply said yes. I got to meet him. I met his family. I met his mother. I met his circle of influence. We got connected on business. All from a yes. Now, this does not mean that I'm suggesting that you should be careless and not discriminate with regards to all Now, I make a very clear distinction. If someone says, would would you like to join me at the pub or go out clubbing? Those are locations that I do not necessarily see fruitful relationship coming out of. I stay away from that. If you want me to join you at a restaurant for a meal, yes. If you want me to come to the club, I have no interest in that. If you want me to come to the pub, yeah, depending on what time of the day. Opportunities for people to get to know you sober, not whilst they're drunk or tipsy, sober, are things I go for. Now, I've also had opportunities from business, meeting people in the gym, getting introduced. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. As a matter of fact, here is perhaps one of the best advice I can give you, which is become a problem solver. When you meet people, think about what problem you can solve for them and go in with that mindset. And you should always ask when you meet people, and do it sincerely. And don't think from the perspective of you not having anything. You'd be surprised at what you can give people. For example, you meet someone, at the end of the conversation, you simply say, listen, is there anything I can do for you? Or how can I be of service to you? Those two statements alone go a long way in creating relationships. Because most people are conditioned to expect that other people are looking to take from them. Come in with a heart of giving, and when the opportunity comes, give. And if there's something you cannot give, endeavor to connect the person or the people with people who can provide that service. For example, we meet and you say to me, you have this business deal you're looking into and the legal team you have is not necessarily working well. You may not be in the legal profession, but it's up to you to go away. Don't say there's nothing I can do. Go away, ponder on what they have as a problem that needs solving. Reach out to other people and ask people if they have the capacity and capability of filling that void. Can they meet that need? Can they solve that problem? And once you identify people, connect them. So that in many ways, you may not be the person solving all of the problems, but you could be someone who's facilitating and connecting people. Now, the point of all of this is to say, between 18 and 35, my experience was a lot of young men. We got anchored down due to poor decisions. You got yourself a girlfriend, and therefore you said no to everything. You couldn't travel with the boys, you couldn't go to functions because your girlfriend didn't want to go or wasn't invited. You couldn't travel out during the weekends for a potential networking event, or perhaps you had a child too early and therefore everything revolved around the child. Perhaps in this case, you didn't have a girlfriend, you didn't have a baby, but you were closed-minded. You were stuck in the village, the town that you were raised, and everything revolved around the small canvas of life that you'd seen. And so everything else beyond your comfort zone seemed like the wilderness. If you're not from London, you consider everyone in London to be greedy capitalists, or financiers and bankers and thieves, and therefore you categorize people even before you meet them into certain boxes, and you rob yourself of the opportunity to serve and to be served. So the advice I'm giving you is be open to opportunities, say yes a lot, especially between 18 and 30, certainly between 18 and 30 and possibly going up to 35, and be of service. One of the greatest statements that that had the greatest, one of the most revealing impacts on me comes from ancient times, in which they said, if you want to be the greatest, you have to be willing to be the servant. You have to serve. The willingness to serve is what leads to this greatness. The more people you can serve, and the more people you can serve happily, and the more people you can serve with happiness and in a satisfactory manner, has a correlation, positive correlation, with your success. The more people who think favorably of you, the higher the likelihood that you would find favor with people. Now, I've said before, I would rather be lucky than be successful. It sounds like a play on words. Success is a very, very hard thing to attain consistently. Most people pursue success, most people never reach success. I prefer grace. I know I said lucky, but if you come down to that, I like to use the word grace. I'd rather have grace follow me every single day, rather than me rely on my success, my ability, my achievement, my background, my history. I would rather have success come from grace rather than success from my efforts. The reason being, I know many a times I have found myself in places, amongst people, in circumstances where most people said, you got lucky. To which I said, yes. I found grace. People looked towards me favorably, not because there was something great about me, not because there was something good about me, but simply because the people who were expressing the goodwill found it in their hearts to reach out to me and to help. The only thing I did was put myself out there. I think if you were to ask me, one of the regrets I have at a much younger age was not asking enough. I was too timid to ask. I think most people make the mistake of being too scared of asking, either for help, advice, direction, formulas. Just ask. And your ability to ask is connected with your ability to put yourself out there and your willingness to say yes. We're afraid of rejection, and therefore we stay in our small little world. We don't travel around, we don't travel abroad. We never look across to see what is out there. Even if not for changing where you are, but for making sure that the way you're doing things is still the right way of doing things. And let me give you, in closing, a good analogy or example. Before the British Empire started traveling around and colonizing parts of the world, there were parts of the world, such as Australia and Africa, that were unexposed to, I'm going back, let's say the 17th century. There were locations that were not developed. Although the British industrialization had begun, there were places that refused to interact with the wider world because they stayed within their small tribe. They were not open to interacting with strangers. They were not interested in trading or trade and battering. And for that reason, if you go to places like Canada and places like Australia today, you find that the Aborigines, the original people of that land, are still backwards compared to the immigrants, some of who just arrived on boats. One of the reasons for that is because they stayed and remain as solo tribes. They refused to interact. They refused to look towards, you might say, the horizon. They refused to say yes. They shut themselves out, and 300 years later, those tribal people are still amongst the worst, or amongst the people in that community who suffered the worst. The reason being, not exposed to ideas. In other words, interaction is such a powerful thing. It's like ideas having sex. When you interact with people, your thoughts are exposed to their thoughts, and their thoughts are exposed to your thoughts. And that creates almost like a sexual experience where ideas are having sex. Sometimes they interact and there is no sex, so nothing is birthed. Some other times the ideas interact, they connect, they stick, they have sex, they reproduce something great. Refusing to interact with the world, choosing to remain as an island, or living as a tree, which is what most men do. You get yourself a girlfriend too early, a mono relationship. You move in with her or she moves in with you. You knock her up, she has a baby. You get yourself maybe tied to so much debt. All of these items are like roots that hold you down to the soil where you are. And therefore, it doesn't really matter what opportunities are presented to you. Your response is always no. I can't leave because of her. I can't leave because of the family. I can't leave because of all the debt I have. I can't leave because this is all I know. So you say no to everything in life. Now, there's a saying that most people do not fail in life because they aim, shoot, and miss. Most people fail in life because they never aim in the first place. Most of us are saying no to the life, to the world, no to opportunities, no to people, no to relationships, no to everything that is outside of our comfort zone. The consequence of that is when you get to 50, 60, you look back and you realize all of the opportunities that you could have had, a life that you could look back on and say, whoa. And perhaps one of the ways you can test yourself is ask yourself a simple question. Could you look back at your life today, irrespective of your age, and say with sincerity and in honesty, could you look back and express the following, whoa. In other words, recognizing that you gave it your best shot. Now, connected to this, failure to say yes intrinsically has to do with our inability to dream. We have to learn how to dream and to embrace our dreams. Now, Henry David Thoreau once said that if you advance confidently in the directions of your dreams and you endeavor to live the life that you have imagined, that you will meet with success, unexpected, in uncommon hours. In other words, you don't have to worry too much about the destination. You simply have to focus on the direction. We move towards the direction we face. Face the right direction. Don't worry about the destination. And the direction should be wherever the opportunities or invitations are. Say yes. And perhaps in closing today's session, let me leave you with something that will be uncomfortable to do, but something you can practice. When you find that there are no opportunities or invitations coming your way, that means you're not giving invitations to other people, you're not reaching out to other people to help. And that simply means You should not worry about getting, focus on giving. And never think that what you have is too little. Break the bread you have and share the bread with the person who needs. And, this is perhaps mind-blowing for me. Most people think of themselves too lowly and have nothing, or believe they have nothing to give. You can give a smile, you can give a listening ear, you can give forgiveness, you can give words of encouragement, you can give affirmation, you can give so much more than tangible things. As a matter of fact, the tangible items, such as paying for someone's meal, buying them a gift, those are trivial issues. They are easily forgotten. As a matter of fact, keep this in mind in your interactions with people. Never deny another person the opportunity to give them something. Get your ego out of the way and don't worry about what the person would think of your gift. Just give. Now, I hope that has been of some value.